Dear Naruto Lemon fans, I'm thrilled to invite all of you to my Boosty channel, where you can enjoy exclusive Naruto Lemon scenes in a comfortable and supportive community. Choose from various subscription tiers, from Mini Lemon to God Lemon, and gain access to unique content tailored just for our fans. Plus, subscribers to over Naruto Lemon and God Lemon will receive special mentions in my videos. Support my channel and dive deeper into the world of Naruto today. Dare. They've arrived. Naruto pointed to the lake ahead. The water's surface sparkled mesmerizingly in the sunlight, causing him to squint slightly. Beautiful? Very. The boy smiled contentedly, gently squeezing the hand of the girl standing next to him. Then he let go of her hand and took a few steps forward. His eyes scanned the small clearing in front of the lake, then he lay down on the grass, clasping his hands behind his head. Sakura-chan, lie down with me. No, I don't want to. Naruto raised his eyebrows and followed the girl with his gaze as she walked up to the very edge of the water and froze, looking at something in the depths of the water. The boy sighed and turned his head. He tore off a straw and began chewing it thoughtfully, gazing at the sky, then returned his attention to the girl. His gaze glided enchantedly over her figure, taking in her fragile shoulders, slender arms, and shapely legs. Sakura stood a little distance away, her back to him. She leaned forward and ran her hand through the water. Smiling, she unfastened her boots and tossed them aside. She stood there for a moment, enjoying the feel of the soft grass beneath her bare feet. She extended one foot forward, but as soon as her toes touched the water, she pulled it back. Sakura-chan, I told you the water is still cold. It's not true, it had already warmed up by the evening. Here, look. The girl confidently stepped into the water with one foot, then the other. After taking a few steps, she turned to face the boy and smiled contentedly, then ran along the shore, laughing softly. How wonderful! Even though the heat had cooled down by evening, Sakura was still glad for the chance to cool off a bit. Up to her ankles in the water, she continued to cut through the surface, feeling the cool sand beneath her feet. Naruto chuckled, watching the girl's actions. He was amazed at how the usually collected and serious Sakura, calmly pacing the hospital wards, could, in a matter of moments, transform into a restless and slightly capricious child, frolicking in the water and enthusiastically chasing a butterfly. Noticing the guy's intense gaze, Sakura stopped and, tilting her head slightly to the side, crossed her arms over her chest. Why are you looking at me like that? Can't I get some rest on my only day off? Oh, come on. Of course you can, Sakura-chan. Naruto scratched the back of his head and turned his gaze back to the clouds. Sakura raised her head proudly, grinned, and, after standing in the water for a moment longer, began to walk out onto the shore. The drops of water running down her feet quickly soaked into the sun-warmed earth. She approached Naruto, still lying on the ground, and leaned over him, placing her hands on her hips. Well? Naruto, with a sly smile, was about to push her down onto the grass next to him, when he suddenly felt a drop fall on his cheek, and then a few more. Rain? Sakura looked at the sky, completely hidden behind clouds. I don't think it'll be long. We'll wait it out under the tree. Naruto immediately rose to his feet, took the girl by the hand, and ran with her to a large tree with a spreading crown growing nearby. As soon as they found themselves sheltered under the lush foliage of the tree, the rain instantly intensified several times. Wow, how strong! Sakura watched the rain, her arms wrapped tightly around Naruto, her head pressed against his chest. Naruto hugged her back, burying his nose in her hair and gently stroking her back. His heart always fluttered when she was near, and he could only guess that she felt the same when she was with him. Sakura raised her head, resting her chin on his chest. Meeting his gaze, she noticed a mischievous glint in his. Naruto carefully tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and, leaning slightly, lightly kissed the tip of her nose. Smiling, the girl moved her hands to his neck. Then she looked down and carefully placed one foot on his right shoe and the other on his left. Once she was level with his face, she reached his lips, drawing him into a long, tender kiss. Time slowed, and everything around her faded into the background. Sakura felt only his strong arms on her waist, his unruly hair beneath her fingers, his soft lips on hers, and heard the quickening beat of her heart. She realized belatedly that she hadn't felt any support beneath her feet for a long time, because Naruto lifted her slightly, holding her tighter. Pulling away from his lips, Sakura pressed her forehead to his, gazing into his bottomless blue eyes, and then lightly kissed his cheek. Naruto gently lowered her to the ground, and for a moment they simply stood there, catching their slightly ragged breath and inhaling the air fresh from the rain. "Aren't you cold?" The blonde man gently touched her palm and smiled when he felt it was warm. "No," Sakura shook her head. Still smiling, Naruto leaned down and nuzzled her neck, inhaling the delicate scent of wild cherry blossoms. Sakura shuddered slightly, then felt goosebumps run down her body as he exhaled hot air onto her neck. "Naruto, it tickles," Sakura laughed and raised her shoulders, trying to move away. Ignoring the girl's words, Naruto gently touched her neck with his lips. "Come on, Naruto." Sakura, embarrassed and laughing at the same time, started poking his stomach with her finger. His jacket was unbuttoned. She could feel his hard abs beneath the mesh top, and it seemed her actions didn't tickle him at all. Nevertheless, he pulled away from her neck and hugged her tightly, first kissing the top of her head. "Look, it looks like the rain has stopped," Sakura said, watching only the drops still falling from the tree leaves. "That's true." Sakura walked forward, shuddering at the feeling of cold water on the grass, and then stopped abruptly. "Is everything okay?" Naruto looked at her face with concern. "My shoes." The boy's gaze fell on her bare feet. Sakura, wasting no time, ran to the water's edge and held up her boots, showing them to him. "They're soaking wet," the girl sighed and lowered them back to the ground. "What am I supposed to wear home now?" Naruto walked up to the girl, put his hands on her shoulders, and, smiling, whispered in her ear with a conspiratorial look. "I'll have to carry you in my arms." "What?" "No," Sakura looked at him, confused. I meant." The boy continued to look at her with a smile. The proud and confident girl now looked completely embarrassed, clearly thinking about how everyone in the village would look at them. He chuckled, turned his back to her, and leaned slightly. "Jump in," he suggested to her with a cheerful note in his voice. Sakura just looked at him for a few more seconds, and then her lips stretched into a smile. "Okay," she replied. "And the boots? Give them here." Naruto reached out and took her shoes, remaining in the same position. Sakura wrapped her arms around his neck and jumped slightly, wrapping her legs around his waist. He moved his hands back. He grabbed the hand holding the boots with his other hand, supporting her wrist. "Are you holding up?" She breathed near his ear. Naruto turned his head over his shoulder, looking tenderly at the girl, who closed her eyes, her cheek pressed against his hair, and headed toward the village. Their walk today had taken them beyond its boundaries, and the journey back would be long. The boy felt Sakura's hands grip his shoulders tightly, her fingers occasionally squeezing them lightly. He felt her measured breath on his hair, and his insides trembled with the overwhelming feelings he felt for this girl. Sakura felt a little tired after the eventful day, and she was so comfortable riding on Naruto's back that she almost dozed off. She was awakened by a sudden gust of wind, tousling her hair. She opened her eyes and looked around, trying to figure out where they were going. He felt her fidget. "Sakura-chan, are you comfortable?" "Yes," she barely touched his hair with her lips. The kunoichi barely noticed when they entered the village. They walked down one of Konoha streets, and Sakura watched the passers-by, but as soon as she noticed their interested glances, she immediately closed her eyes and hid her flushed cheeks in Naruto's hair. As she got used to it, she began to look around with more confidence, and she even began to enjoy it. Sakura couldn't help but smile when she noticed two girls walking toward them, looking coquettishly at Naruto and giving her disapproving glances. She pressed herself closer to Naruto and gently stroked his hair. Watching the girls go, she burst into silent laughter. "Sakura-chan, what are you doing there?" "Wow, he didn't even notice them." "Nothing. Everything is fine." The guy stared at her contented face with incomprehension, shook his head, and continued on his way. After a while he stopped. "We are here." Sakura sighed in disappointment as she saw the door of her house in front of her. "So, did you enjoy riding me?" Naruto smiled slyly. "Hey," Sakura lightly pushed him in the shoulder, noticing his expression, "don't make things up." She tried to get off him, and Naruto gently intercepted her, placing her in front of him on his shoes. The girl opened the door with a key and stepped into the house. "Oh, Sakura." "Hi, Mom." "Hello, Naruto." The woman smiled even more, noticing a blonde head in the doorway. "Hello, Mabuki-san," the guy greeted. Meanwhile, Sakura put on dry shoes and went out the door again. "I'll just say goodbye to Naruto for a minute," the girl said, slamming the door shut. Once outside, she sighed wearily and leaned her back against the door. "What's wrong?" The guy put his arm around the girl's shoulders. "No, it's fine." But, feeling his gaze on her, Sakura continued in a whisper. "Our parents will be asking about us all evening again." She rolled her eyes. "Sakura-chan," Naruto gently ran his hand through her hair. "I'm going to buy us a house very soon." "Home? For us?" Sakura looked at him questioningly. "Of course. Did you think the future Hokage and his wife would live in a small apartment?" he asked, smiling broadly. "Wife?" The girl raised her eyebrows. "Well," Naruto scratched the back of his head in confusion. "And you? You fool." She lightly slapped him on the head. "Are you proposing to me like that?" "That's it, we'll talk tomorrow. Bye." She stood on her tiptoes, quickly kissed him on the cheek and turned towards the door. "Sakura-chan, wait." Naruto gently placed his hand on her shoulder and turned her towards him. "Sorry." He hugged the girl tightly and looked guiltily into her eyes. "I just love you very much." Sakura looked into his eyes for a few seconds, then exhaled, unable to contain her smile. She placed her hand on his cheek, gently stroking it with her thumb, then kissed him hard on the lips. Naruto beamed and, cupping her face in his hands, kissed first one eye, then the other. "Okay, I'm going anyway, okay?" Sakura reluctantly pulled away from his embrace. "Yes, of course," the guy gently squeezed her hand one last time. "See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow," the girl turned and disappeared behind the door. Naruto folded his arms behind his head, taking a deep breath of fresh air. A wide smile slowly spread across his face. He leisurely walked toward the house, happily gazing at the stars above.